Good evening, everyone. We'll call our meeting to order. And Joy will call the roll.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Revelinsky.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Ledger Galen.
Yes.
Hammis.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Council, we will add a report from the Safety and Wellness Committee from Chief Harvey under our committee and board reports. Are there any other additions to this evening's agenda? If not, then we'll move to our consent agenda. We have just 3 items. So we have approval of minutes from the April 14th meeting. We have a resolution for employment at Park and Recreation and approval of claims in the amount of $239,276.66. Entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Revelinsky.
Second.
Second by Ledger Kalen. Please call the roll.
Revelinsky.
Yes.
Ledger Galen.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Hammis.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move to our public forum for appearances before the council. I see Jerry Fisher's just walked in. Jerry, can you come up to the podium? You're up.
Well, I have 2 things, but I don't know if I'm in order. If I do 2 things.
Go ahead, just explain them, Jerry. We can take them out of order.
Okay, I want to first of all I want to talk about if I can block off the alley for June 21st for the Fairfest. If we can utilize that to have a band that night, and that's the first thing. And then the second thing is I just want to put a bid in to buy the alley.
Okay, that we don't have on our agenda. That we can refer to someone though as well.
Well, I've kind of started the process with that with purchasing the alley. We went through a lot of the process already in purchasing the alley. I had everybody signed off on it. I had the fire department signed off on it. I had the police department signed off on it. We've done all the studies as far as if it was long enough, if the hoses were long enough to do to meet the requirements. So I think we've done most of the legwork on that. So I just wanted to see where we needed to go from here, I guess.
Okay.
And you've also talked to the adjacent property owner?
I have.
Okay. And there's anything on that front? Because actually the alley is split right down the middle. Half would be one side, half would be the other.
Yeah, and we're up in the air on that. I'm not sure where Ross really stands on that. I've talked to Ross several times back and forth on, every time I've talked to him, he needs to expand or he needs to do something different about it. But when it comes down to it, he's always been pretty accepting of my ideas. So. All right.
And when you're talking about closing the alley for the Fairfest portion, you just want to close it from where the alley is adjacent to the sidewalk back to the end of the alley at the end of your building.
Yes.
The east-west, or the eastbound traffic will still be able to be maintained, behind there, and then walking traffic out in front of your business will still be there across that portion.
Yes, just like we did last year. Exactly. We did the same thing last year.
All right.
Are you planning to serve alcohol?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the other request, I guess. I don't know if that's.
I guess that's a separate request, wouldn't it be?
Well, Chief, have you reviewed the request
I've
this year?
Looked at it. No, I haven't looked at it this year.
Okay.
Last year when he had it, we didn't have any problems. He knows about the fencing, the requirements for the bathrooms inside. He knows that the east-west alley has to be open so that the businesses can make their deliveries both to Walkers and then down to Revelation. So it hasn't been an issue in the past. And he's done a good job about keeping the people. No one under 21 has been allowed inside.
Right. I don't have a problem with them amending. Here's a request to be sure that we're in compliance with what the state law requires for alcohol to be served outside. So I don't have a problem with that. we will go ahead and consider both as part of the request.
What were the dates that you're asking for?
Just the evening of June 21st. So it'll be into
Which,
June
is that the
22nd.
Saturday or the Friday?
The Saturday night.
The Saturday night.
So it'll be continued to June 23rd. I'm sorry, June 21st and 22nd.
21st and 22nd, so it'll be Friday and Saturday night.
No, Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday,
That's
okay.
midnight into Sunday.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Council, and then the request would be to approve closing the alley for also serving alcohol. Is there the band, what time did you, we generally put a time limit on the bands playing also. Is there something that's been,
What did we decide, midnight?
Midnight.
I think that's what we gave midnight to
Route
Fairfest, so
Fairfest.
Oh,
are
really?
you okay with midnight being?
I guess I have to be.
Yeah, I think that's
Can we
probably
turn it
even
down?
more lenient than we've done
Well-
that in the past as well. I know when we've had Live on the Square, the latest we've ever gone is 11.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I can't really ask for more than you're giving
So
everybody else.
I would recommend that be a 12 o'clock limit on that as well.
As far as live music is concerned,
Yeah.
I would think that with the service of alcohol, you still have until what the state
Right.
statute is 2 a.m. But, when the music's over, pretty much people go home and turn out the lights.
Yeah, well, I mean, the theory being the band's expensive. I can't start the band until I can't get the band until 10.
Oh,
So
You can move inside.
Yeah,
I'm not going to move equipment.
that's kind of we did it until 2 last year, and I didn't realize nobody told me anything about a curfew, and I didn't realize. So I guess it's better to beg for forgiveness in that situation. But I didn't realize there was a curfew last year, and I apologize.
We'll get complaints if it's till 2 a.m.
Right on.
Did you? I know we received a few complaints about Fairfest and
That was more Thursday
the
night.
music during.
They're
the
not
week.
playing where they, down at the old Catholic Church. They're not playing down there on a Thursday night this year. It's
Okay.
all going to start on Friday.
All
So
right.
we're not having any of that.
And the only reason I ask that is because I'm trying to get an understanding of what you went through last year with it, and if they played until the time that they played last year, you didn't get any complaints about that particular area or venue, did you?
Not downtown. We get complaints every time that somebody plays past 11 o'clock, even though, I mean, it's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
The people down there don't like it if they have to get up and go to work.
Would it be reasonable to shut it down if we get a complaint? Is that fair? No?
I don't think it's fair. I think if you're telling Fairfest they have to shut down at midnight, it's only fair.
Yeah.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah, I think we have to put limits on it, unfortunately, and get a reduced fee from your band, potentially. Or do unplugged, as John Revelinsky suggested after midnight.
Unplugged would work.
Well, is that? I mean, are we okay with that? I'm okay. I can live with that.
Acoustic?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I'm negotiable. I'm flexible.
That's a problem.
I think it'd be kind of a nice vibe actually at that time of night. I think it could be a real cool thing.
So we're saying no amplification past midnight?
And then if we get a complaint, then we'll definitely have to. When we get the complaint.
All right, that's fine.
When?
Okay,
When?
so I think we've
I
got
would move for approval of allowing Top of the Rock to close the alley and then also use it as a beer garden
Okay,
for June 21st and 22nd.
okay, with the amplification of music to be ceased by midnight. Okay.
Right.
I'll second
Motion, second by Hallie.
I just comment, it's nothing personal. I always vote against using city property, public property for serving alcohol. Just, I feel it's not something that is necessary or needs to be done. Anyway, so I'll vote no, but nothing personal.
Not offended.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
So motion passes. We'll move on to our resolutions and action items. We have several that are coming from Public Safety Committee that were introduced at our last meeting. Tony, would you run us through the
do them one at a
the
time?
decisions? Yeah, we'll do one at a time.
Not sure what order they're in. I got my order here, so I'm going to start with the 5th Street. Request to move the no truck parking sign in front of 52 South 5th Street. That's a sign by the old box Texaco that was put in there years ago when they had deliveries and trucks they're using all the time. So we'll start with that one.
Start with the removal of the truck parking sign. So is that
Yes.
motion to
I'll make a
approve?
motion to do so.
Thank you.
Second.
Second by Hallie. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Thank you.
And next, make a motion to remove the embargo weight limit sign on Jefferson Avenue between 6th and 12th Street.
Okay, that is a 10-ton weight limit sign on West Jefferson. And again, our street superintendent brought that to our attention as well, that their trucks are out of compliance, so make sure that that's done.
Second.
Second by Hallie. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Thanks.
I'll next make a motion to remove parking from the west side of North C Street from Broadway to Briggs Avenue. The city requested that be done, or Daryl did, because of the snow removal issues in the wintertime and the trouble he has getting through that section of street,
Okay.
Which one is it? The first one.
North
Yeah,
C.
it's the 100.
North C, that'd be the 100
I'm
block
using
of
mine.
North C.
Just trying to follow along.
Motion to approve removing the no parking sign.
Oh, no, it's adding no parking signage.
Adding,
Adding,
Yep.
removing
Second.
parking,
adding
adding no parking signs.
Yes.
Second.
Second by Hallie. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you.
Now, I also make a motion to add a no parking sign or remove parking from the south side of Hempstead Avenue, east of D Street. That becomes a traffic problem down there with cars parking on that dead-end little stub street down there by the high school certain occasions, and residents have a hard time getting in and out, and driveways get blocked.
Second.
So motion to place no parking 400 block of East Hempstead Avenue. Second by Hallie. Any discussion?
That would affect parking during sporting events, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Over there?
But there's that brand new parking lot. It has
Well, yeah,
more
there's
space than that
expanded
street ever had.
Parking lot.
That's one of the
now.
key problem areas in times is during sporting events,
Okay.
according to residents that live there.
All right. Well, with the new parking lot coming in at the high school and being opened, I can see some alleviation that way then.
Right.
So
It's also the safety issue of emergency vehicles getting through.
not wide enough.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you.
Entirely.
Did the authorization of fire lane come through your committee, Tony?
No, actually, that came through last November on Public Safety Committee. Was brought back to my attention last meeting, but I didn't bring the notes from that. It was requested added a fire lane in front of the library.
And
Okay.
It's 2 spaces, isn't it?
where would that be at? That would be directly in front of the.
Do you want to
wants to
describe
talk
where that
about
is,
it.
Rebecca
Or Rebecca?
or
You
Scott?
tag team.
Yeah.
In front of the library, as you look at the front entrance, it's on your right. And we're talking about removing 3 parking spots from that place. Kevin had also assured us that signs would be posted across from Doc's Inn that said, to say library parking only. And so we're wondering if you're going to put those signs in somehow. If you're removing 3, what's happening is that people who dine at the restaurant across the street tend to use parking for, at the library.
Okay.
We are anticipating that as we offer the computer workshops, Technology Tuesdays, that we'll have a lot of need for parking.
So
And there are times of every week where we're filled to the limit and people are going down the street in different directions. So
you're talking about eliminating parking only for the library on the north side of that street, there in front of Docks Inn.
We would be
So
losing-
where would Docks Inn parking be then?
Docks Inn has parking that angles
Angle parking on gravel that's out there, yeah.
under their trees.
But this space, Darren, is on the south side. It's on the library side of the street.
Right.
Right. So we
And
would
you would put signage in front of those angled parking stalls that say library parking only?
Well, this is the first we've heard of this, so we can't authorize that
No,
tonight.
we're not going to authorize.
We're just talking about this fire lane that we didn't get around to in the past, finally putting that into place.
But once that's put in, once that's implemented, then you're going to remove those 3 spaces, and those 3 spaces that had been either used by library patrons or by Docks Inn patrons have to use alternate parking somewhere, and both of these requests are kind of interconnected. So my suggestion would be should go back to the Transportation Committee and have them review this once more to see if we want to add that additional signage that was implied to be put into place after this would be done.
We can review the signage part of it for the parking, but I think the fire lane needs to go ahead forward now and then go ahead with the other half of it later.
All right.
Can we hear from the fire chief on that? Scott, any comments about the fire lane? You're taking up prime real estate there.
The 3 parking spots are parked right in front of the library,
Right.
and then you come in with the angled all the way to Main Street.
Right.
Those 3, when they're there, we're going to pull right up to that front of that library when we have a call. And it's going to be 2 pumpers first, and then we're going to position the aerial wherever we need it. But the room that we need on the library side of that truck, we've got ladders that actually fold down, that come down mechanically. All our gear is on the side of the truck that we get dressed in, and we just need room to pull hose. And when you've got cars in the way, you just need those 3 spots. And I know 3 spots are valuable to Rebecca, but we need that room to be able to do our job if there's an emergency.
Okay, so you're the one who brought it to the
Yes.
public safety yourself. Yeah. Okay, good.
All right.
Thank you, Scott. So entertain a motion then to approve the fire lane.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Hammes, second by Flournoy. Any other discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Thanks. Next, Council, we have a resolution accepting a land gift from Maharshi University of Management. This is essentially land that is contiguous to the Little League fields. And with the expansion of the Little League, the university owns a piece of property that was contiguous. They were approached by a Little League board and came to an agreement last fall, I believe, to donate that property to the Little League. But since the entire Little League complex is actually city property, and this is the second piece of land that the university has donated to the city, we need to formally receive this by resolution. So the resolution in front of you is to essentially accept this piece of property as a gift.
It's on the south side of the field.
Yes, it is on the south side, and I know they intend to put in some batting cages back in the area. I don't know if it's for field development right now, but they just finished developing another field, so I think this will add to the expansion of that area. And since there are no longer private batting cages available, I think it's pretty important to the Little League to have something there as well.
I'll make the motion to accept.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Hammes, second by Flournoy to accept the land gift by Maharshi University of Management. Any discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next, Council, we have a resolution to support policy for breastfeeding employees. This is part of what we're putting together as a policy package for our Blue Zones certification. Michael, I know you're shepherding that right now. Can you give us any other background on it other than pretty straightforward language in the resolution?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Breastfed babies are healthy babies, so it just basically says that any city employee who wishes to express milk would have a place to do that, would be able to take breaks during the day to do that, would have a place to store the milk, and then would be responsible for taking care of it, not leaving spoiled milk around. And it's pretty straightforward. As I said to the press, just to clarify, this is for female employees only. Just to make sure. I don't want the press getting any misunderstandings. But again, pretty straightforward.
Okay, so that's a motion to approve the resolution?
Yep, so moved.
Okay,
Second.
moved by Revelinsky. I'm sorry, moved by Hallie, second by Flournoy. Any other discussion? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same sign. Thank you. Next, council, we have resolution authorizing easements, and these would be sewer easements, I believe, for Walton Lake subdivision. And Melanie, can you comment on those? No. Okay.
I can.
Because you can, John? Yeah, because I know Sean had another meeting to go to. Pardon?
One's a trail easement, one's a sewer easement. We sold by a special agreement with Mr. Kraus a few years ago the last 3 lots on the corner coming into Walton. Now there's a house being built on one of those that we didn't anticipate being built on. We needed a drainage easement that actually crosses the trail that was there, but we didn't have specifically drawn easement for, so that's what one of these is. The other is an easement back to a lift station, part of the sewer system that's been there since before the subdivision. So we're just doing some housekeeping before the newly built home transfers and we lose the opportunity.
Thank you, John. And both easements are with the same property owner?
Yes.
Okay. And that is Robert and Vicki Kraus. So we'll take the first resolution authorizing the easement on Lot 1 of Walton Lake subdivision.
So moved.
Moved by Flournoy.
Second.
Second by Hamilton. Discussion? And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And then the second easement, John, and then the second easement then is the one that would involve the trail. And John?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Entertain a motion then to approve the sewer easement at Walton Lake subdivision.
Second.
Moved by Hamilton, second by Flournoy. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Thank you. Okay. Next, council, we are being asked to award the skateboard project. We had a bid opening last week. I'll ask Melanie to come up and give us a synopsis of the, there were 2, Melanie, or was it we received?
There were 2. One was Spawn Ranch from Los Angeles, and the other was Grind Line from Seattle, Washington. Both submitted, in addition to their bids, both submitted proposals, including their staff and how they would approach the project. We've looked, Derek and I and the mayor and Joy have looked at the proposals. We would say that Spawn Ranch, they have been to the site. We've talked with them. Derek and I have enjoyed working with them so far. So that would be the recommendation, is to award it to Spawn Ranch. A little bit of their process, we've kind of already been talking with them. First of all, part of the submittal process was to give some examples of what they would see for this city in this budget. Those 3 submittals are are on your packets. We're looking at May 6th. We will have a meeting with the designers. We'll start with one meeting in the afternoon, just kind of talking contract language, specifications of the concrete, so those type of things. And then opening it up that evening, we're looking at 6 o'clock on May 6th for a public input meeting. Anyone who has skateboarded, would like to try, would like to provide input, is welcome to come to the meeting. So we really like their approach. If the city wants to go ahead with Spawn Ranch, that would be how we'd handle it.
Good. And can you talk about the proposals, the economics of both proposals that we received?
Oh.
The bid amounts?
So the budget that we had for this was $111,000. Spawn Ranch brought their bid portion in at $110,000, and Grind Line brought theirs in at $111,000. So they're price-wise not really a difference, but we do like the proposals and the examples that Spawn Ranch gave us.
So they're saying they could build any of these examples for that price?
Yes.
Wow. And so it's just a matter of up to the community or the skateboarding community to decide which one they'd like.
Yep, and they'll tweak the ones that are there. Obviously, one of them's got a large green space in the middle. I would think that the Parks Department, who have to mow it, may not like that. So that's what the night meetings will be about. Is to get input on those kind of things. They're also going to create a Facebook page so that maybe some of the younger users who feel shy about providing their input in a public meeting have a place to give their ideas as well. So they do a good job with the community input.
And this company is the company that built the one for Oskaloosa as well, so they've worked in Iowa?
Yes.
Right.
Yep. The project manager, Vince, is actually from Iowa City. Lived there growing up, I guess. So even though his office is out of California, their construction crews, as well as Vince, is doing a project in central Illinois at the beginning of the construction season. And so if you would award this, they would move from there out to Fairfield. They kind of already have their crews lined up for this job. So they're ready to move forward and can have it open this fall.
Great, terrific. And we have been in touch with the donor sponsor for this project, and he is aware that we have received bids and that we are proceeding in this way. So we think from a financial standpoint, we'll be ready to go as well. So would entertain a motion based on the recommendation to accept the bid from Spawn Ranch.
So moved.
Moved by Revelinsky and second by Hamilton. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Revelinsky.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Ledger Kalin.
Yes.
Howley.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Hemis.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. Next, council, we have presentation by Adam Pleggy regarding our South Main project. Adam?
Hello. So I've been working to provide an update on the South Main District. FEDA's been working with Mark Hickenbottom and Pilot Grove Bank on developing the area directly east of the new Pilot Grove facility. This is their proposed site. They're actually mostly done with construction. And then the rest of the green area here is what they own as well. Orange and everything south here is Mark Hickenbottom's property. The developers are currently soliciting families to build single-family units, all in the 48 lots staged here. This is an intended subdivision at this point. There's also some commercial and residential opportunities that are in preliminary stages moving forward here as well. The city recently approved Driss Construction to pave the access road coming south off of Highway 1 and then east along Pilot Grove's facility, ending about this vertical line right here. That's a $319,000 project plus engineering costs, and that's being paid for out of the increment for Pilot Grove and Casey's, which is building across the street approximately. This is just across the street from the hospital, so everybody's aware. So this increment, both of these are being constructed in 2014, at least that's the anticipated date for Casey's as well. Revenue from both Casey's and Pilot Grove is expected to exceed the costs for this June construction project. And the developers are asking the city for a letter of intent to dedicate any excess revenue generated from these two projects in that TIF district to continue the road east to the end of Pilot Grove's property. This would help continue to get the ball rolling on some of the development happening back here. Obviously, we've talked about the housing needs assessment last month, and pretty clear need for additional housing, and this is a pretty great opportunity to help facilitate that. So it's another 621 feet beyond the Pilot Grove building. Now, the estimated excess revenue that I provided you is only about 72,000. So again, there is a Merrick Inn that's in that TIF district, and there's some other properties that may be developed as well. There's also fairly conservative estimates on the Pilot Grove and Casey's assessed value. We won't know the true assessed value for those until the end of the year, assuming that they're completed at that point. And I think the developers understand there may not be sufficient excess revenue to finish that project, but the city stating their intentions would help move that ball forward for them.
Okay. Let's see. So there are a couple comments I'd like. First of all, we do have Travis Squires with us from Piper Jaffray, who we are working with on our bonding. I'd like, Travis, did you get a chance to review the projections on the TIF? And would you have any comments for the council on what you feel about the projections, and then also this letter of intent? Is there something that we should be concerned about there in terms of binding the council to something that we may or may not be able to follow through with?
I have not reviewed the letter of intent. My only comment on looking at the numbers would be, right now they're just looking at raw cost. If this is going to be part of financing and borrowing, do you need to have an interest component also as part of this overall the South Main analysis, which could kind of further eat into that. Without reviewing the letter of intent, I can't really say whether or not it would bind or not. I guess I can. Is this it right here?
No, there's no written letter of intent at this point. We just asked the council to consider that option, and also.
Would it be only the two properties that they would be? Is that what they're asking, to commit the increment from the two properties, or the entire?
Well, so there's potential for additional commercial development within the TIF district here. That would obviously provide some additional funding for completing that road. But yeah, I think the TIF district does span all the way down to American here. It encompasses the hospital, Pilot Grove, property. So I think whatever the council is amenable to would be great. We're just looking for specifying the intentions. I guess the financing is being rolled into the recreation center project, so we didn't include the interest as part of that, although it's certainly good.
Yeah, our recommendation would probably be to look at that as standalone, but obviously the council has a decision on whether or not it's supported from. Essentially, if it's not supported from there, then you're supporting it with your debt service levy. So it's either coming from the increment revenues or it's coming from your debt service levy as far as the interest component would be concerned.
Do we have to make a decision on this evening?
The one reason it may be prudent to move forward here quickly is Mark Hickenbottom owns the land that will be needed for the June project, the paving. I think he'd like to know some of the council's intentions, although he's definitely intending to deed that over to the city to get that project underway. But it would be nice to have some sort of commitment sooner rather than later.
And then next set of comments I'd like would be from our city attorney, John, in terms of a letter of intent.
We need Mr. Hickenbottom's cooperation.
Yeah, I think the next step for the council, I would recommend, would probably be to get an idea on the cost and to determine if you can really even make that sort of statement of your intention and revenues. I think it's pretty easy to back and forth and look at what's available and then decide if you can even state that as intention. It doesn't do you any good to state your intention if there's not even adequate revenues to do so. You could certainly have dialogues with that, but as far as an official council,
you can make that recommendation.
I would wait probably until you have some sort of idea on the cost. My 2 cents, but.
Question. Adam, you were saying this is tied to rec center project, but isn't the other TIF tied to rec center?
No, it's not tied to the rec center project. This is the South Main TIF here. The rec center one is this.
Right. You're saying the bonding would be at all at
yes.
one time? Is that perhaps if we go that route? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's a potential that it could be that, go that way. But certainly you could separate the two and look at them as two separate financing components into one financing.
I mean, would it be harmful to us to say, well, if the money's there, we're amenable to allowing it to be used for that? I mean,
I'd go with John on this. I don't know what the.
Non-binding intention, yeah, probably okay.
I think a general intent letter, assuming the figures allow something, is all that's being requested.
Okay.
It's not a contract, so a letter intending to do that at the figures. That's probably as far as we can go.
And it would also, it would also depend on if there is going to be further development, whether we're involved with it or not. So I guess that there are, there's still a lot of unanswered questions. I know, we've had some casual conversations about some more TIF development in that area. But if we're not, and we're not planning to extend there, then should we be bound, if there are some excesses, to waiting until something develops if we want to use it somewhere else?
The one comment I have on that, I guess, is this doesn't include necessarily the residential component of it. There would need to be an amendment to the TIF.
Right.
Because the road actually runs just north of the commercial TIF district, but it'd be primarily intended to serve part of this commercial TIF district, which is the Pilot Grove property to the south.
But Melanie, at the cost of concrete right now, how far are we going to go for $72,000, even if that was available?
Did you bring that email that had the cost?
I did not bring that with me. Again, I would say the $72,000 is a pretty conservative estimate at this point. I think we'll know more at the end of the year. Unfortunately, until the end of the year, can't really make any more guesses, and I'd rather be conservative than over.
That's fine. I mean, as a rule of thumb, we know $100,000 usually gets us a block of new construction.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Anyway, I think, Jessica, you were going to recommend to
I recommend we
refer
take this back to committee at this point and explore all the options before that we not make any decisions tonight.
Okay. So we'll make a recommendation to Ways and Means, and possibly when Ways and Means meet, if we could get Mr. Hickenbottom at that meeting too, Adam, for him to represent his intentions, that'd be great. We don't want to hold the project up, so we definitely want to do something quickly, and I understand it's his intention to deed the land, but if we can get if we can get a meeting,
sure,
maybe next week. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Adam. Next, council, we have second reading for water rate increase. That's ordinance 1119. Again, I would declare the public hearing on this open and ask if there are any comments from the public at this time on the proposed rate increase. Not seeing any, I'll declare the public hearing closed and ask what the intention of the council is. Any comments received from the council?
I'd just like to state that this is a 12% increase on water rate only. It would be effective July 1st. The sum total of increase you would see on your bill certainly is based off of your water usage, but on average, it's not going to be more than 4% total of what you're actually paying at this point in time. The rate increase is going to be used for some water main replacements that we have scheduled. We also are looking at repair of the dam structure, the wing walls, and the splash basin area at Walton Lake. It's a project that's similar to what was done on Pleasant Lake. You could see it from the Pleasant Plain Road as you go by. There's a bridge that goes across the dam itself, and then the spillway comes underneath the bridge and over top of the landing area. And we've had some water undermining back underneath the bridge abutments. And so before we get into too much trouble from that. We need to have it evaluated. The DNR is sending out a representative to inspect that, and they'll be out and look at it with not only Carl, but also French Rennick are our engineers, and they'll come back with an estimate of what it would cost to do that. But those are the types of projects that we're looking to do with this increase. This was also part of the McClure engineering study for overall rates in order to maintain as well as upgrade our system as we need over the next few years. This would be step one of the water side of your billing. So I would move to pass this from the second to the third reading.
Okay. Thank you, Darren. Motion to move to approve from the second to third reading.
Second.
Second by Ledger Kalin. Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Ledger Kalin.
Yes.
Rivalinsky.
Yes.
Hamas.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, Council, we have also ordinance, second reading for the rezoning of East Briggs Avenue from a B1 to an R3. And this is, again, a residential property that had been zoned commercial. The current owners are intending to return to residential. So I would declare the public hearing open. Ask if there's any comment at this time. Not seeing any, we'll close the public hearing and move to the second reading.
So moved.
Moved by Revelinsky to approve.
Yes.
Second.
Second by Hamilton. Please call the roll.
Rivalinsky.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Hallie.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Hamas.
Yes.
Ledger Kalin.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move to our committee reports. John, Ways and Means.
Our committee did meet on Thursday, April 24th. There were two items on our agenda. One was based on advice from Travis, who's with us tonight. We met with our department heads and encouraged them to stay within their budget till the end of the fiscal year. And based on that, we reviewed each department as much as in a general way, and saw that some had a little more work to do than others, but our attention is on it. I think that's all I'll say at this point on that.
Great.
The other thing was we had discussed about TIF, the TIF bonding that we're about to undertake, whether or not we want to incorporate, whether or not we want to pull the trigger on the $3 million for our pool and recreation center project, and combine the two borrowings into one borrowing, and which may save us money. And that's maybe why Travis is here to comment on that. Is that right?
Multi-purpose tonight. So please come up and talk a little bit about that with the full council, your recommendation based on interest rates and based on some of the savings that we would incur.
Yeah. Again, Travis Squires at Piper Jaffray. As far as looking at this, we've spent some time working with your bond attorney and kind of laying out what we call kind of a plan of finance. As far as working through all the known projects that are currently out there right now, has been talked about as in front of the council in the past, making sure that before you take any action going forward, you have a clear understanding of the available resources to pay for each portion, whether that be from TIF resources available or from your debt service levy. As far as the economics from combining the two issuance, you're going to see primarily your savings is going to come on the legal side with your bond counsel. They will be giving you one opinion. You're looking at a savings in the neighborhood of probably $10,000 on an overall financing cost. A lot of your other financing costs will be more scaled with the project size, so you might not see as much benefit on some of the other costing sides on the financing. As far as putting one package together, though, it might be more marketable. Obviously we've talked in the past that, accessing the markets will likely be a little more difficult this time than it has in the past due to some of the issues that have occurred with the audits over the last couple of years. That being said, we'll likely go out with a couple different options, trying to get the long-term rates locked in. If we can't find that those are favorable at this time, you may be looking again at a bond anticipation note until you can get a clean audit in hand. The goal, though, is with having an audit now with your restated balances for your 2013 audit, that you will be able to find an investor willing to take that on. Obviously, we can't know until we test the waters with your 13 audit. So that being said, I know that it can get done. It's a question as to at what rate and what rate you should be willing to stomach. If the rates, because of the recent downgrades, are too high in my estimation, and what would be my recommendation to you, then I might recommend that we move with a bond anticipation note and just kind of take the risk on that. A couple of years from now, you're going to have more favorable market access that will in effect offset what could even be higher interest rates. So that's currently where I see this going. But as I've talked with Joy and Ed, there's really not anything we can do until you get your audit. You will not be able to place any financing with your 2012 audit. You need your fiscal 13 audit in hand in order to start talking with investors.
And we're going to see you again in 2 weeks, correct, to start to go over some of the timeline on that.
Likely
And
it'll
I hope to have the audit in hand by then. So got to call into the auditor's office, so we'll see.
I know you've done your work there, Ed.
So we'll see what we can do. And Tom, comment about.
Can I comment on the marketing of the bonds? So when we were
Okay, I see. Yeah, because there has been some local chatter about.
So when we were doing our fundraising related to the recreation project, several of the local banks said, try and save your marketing money. We'd love to buy these bonds. Now, this is before the audit report, so my comment is I'm happy to say we're getting close. Go back to those banks and just know that that's a part of it.
Thank you. Yeah.
So several banks were very interested in participating.
Thank you. Yeah.
We've noted that as well.
Good. Thanks, Tom.
A question, Travis.
Yes. Oh, really? Okay.
So we need our 2013 audit in place before we can even consider selling, buying these bonds. But selling bonds? Buying. Selling.
Right.
You can buy it.
Or you can be a part.
John's buying everything.
All right. We're not talking about the end of this fiscal year. The issue that you brought up as far as our rating in the future means getting through this fiscal year to the end of June with, keeping our balances in check. So that's a separate thing. Would it be better for us to wait a couple months until that's done? Would that matter, or it just doesn't turn around that fast?
No, it won't matter because you won't have audited financials. So in effect, the next advantageous time would be after you had your 14 audit. Only if your 14 audit is better than your 13 audit. So. Obviously, you'd go with the most reliable information that you have, which would be your audited 13 results. You'd have to do a hard look and determine if there's any material changes in the budget, which it appears that if there are changes, they're not material from 13 to 14 as far as your ending fund balances would be concerned. So going with a 13 audit is as good as going with waiting with a 14.
It is. Okay.
Travis, what are some of the munis selling for now? If interest rates.
Yeah. Your issue will be more difficult to market.
No, I'm not talking about ours.
Yeah. So if you're looking at a 20-year general obligation bond, you probably with a level repayment schedule. I would expect you to be in the 3% range. Given where your rating currently sits, you could be pushing 4. I'm not saying it's a full percentage point, but in those ranges. That's not to say if you consider that on a historical basis, those are still very low rates. And so that's why if you're considering, well, should we wait and sell a bond anticipation note and take the chance that 3 years later, rates are lower, well, you might have a better rating at that point in time, but you still might not be
Yeah, you might
accessing
be
at
able to
lower
borrow.
interest rates.
Yep.
So as far as pegging down an interest rate, I've had some preliminary conversations with different entities, including some national firms. I've talked with our underwriting desk. We haven't gone to the extent of talking with your local banks, which ideally, they understand the situation better than anybody else. That being said, it's still got to go through their credit. And there have been new credit restrictions on banks in Iowa, so they're going to have to do, or banks nationally, so they're just going to have to do a lot more homework and make certain that they understand credit risk, which as an unlimited tax general obligation bond, there's not a lot of credit risk, but the rating issue has become a bigger deal on the national scale. So.
Okay, great, thank you. Is that everything, John?
Yes.
Okay, next we'll have a Water and Sewer Utilities Committee.
We met prior to the council meeting this evening. On our agenda, the first item was paperless utility billing. We'd had a request from a customer to see if that was possible to do. Tina Walton at the front desk up here did a really good job of working with our current company that operates the software that we use up front. They're known as Encode. They gave us an estimate of what it would be for a first startup with doing a paperless billing, which is in the neighborhood of $8,600 to get the computers set, the program set so that it could do this. And then there would be an annual maintenance fee of approximately $3,300, a little over $3,300 on it. We'd asked Carl to investigate a little bit more for us whether there is there's been expressed interest in it. He was also going to look up what the difference would be in not sending out a bill, being paperless with everyone or being paperless with ones that just request it. The person that approached me about it to begin with approached the ladies up front, and they were referred to me. Our discussion centered around they leave the state during the wintertime. They still have the water turned on at their residence, and they still are billed for it, but with them being out of state, it takes a while for the paper to catch up to them, and sometimes that poses a problem to them. Doing it paperless, they could be notified by email or some other electronic means and be able to do that. We currently offer customers automatic payment through the water and sewer billing department. You could sign up for that. The downside that the person I spoke with and had expressed was that if something major would happen, a water leak or break inside their property somewhere, they wouldn't actually receive notice on that until after their account had been billed for it. So, you could, if you had it on automatic billing and your bill for whatever reason was $7,000, it could exceed what you have in your account in order to pay that through direct payment. But again, we're going to have that more information brought to us by Carl and the gals up front, and we'll review that again. We also talked about the dam at Walton Lake, and I spoke a little bit about that when we were talking about the rate increase and what would go on there. And then we also looked at an engineering services agreement for the engineering work that will begin on the Libertyville sewer project, Libertyville Road sewer project, and we will have final decision on that coming up in our next meeting, which will be within the next couple of weeks prior to our next council meeting.
Okay, thank you. Personnel Committee, Doug?
Yes, we met tonight, right just before the council meeting at 6:15 to discuss the city administrator search. And it's been a little tough having a meeting. Martha's out of town until May 6th, but John and I met with Ed and some others. Joy was there to discuss our interim approach to the city administrator's position. And there'll be a plan put together in the next week or two that the city council will be looking at their May 12th meeting as an interim solution to this position. And then probably proposing that we do a full decision on that search maybe after July 1. So hopefully we'll have something for the council to look at in another week or two.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Chief Harvey, our Safety and Wellness Committee?
We met last Tuesday for Safety and Wellness. One of the things that we decided that we're going to do is the Safety and Wellness Committee is going to kind of be more goal-oriented as opposed to just reviewing accidents that happen within the city. One of the things to get our Blue Zone certification is having a citywide drug policy. We've got the template for the policy itself. The last part of this policy that we need is an employee assistance program. So if we had an employee that needed assistance with finances, drugs, whatever it is, we'd have references here locally that we could refer them to. And then the last part of it is Christy from Park and Rec is going to take that task on, getting with our insurance company, figuring out is it covered by insurance, not covered, how much the cost is for whatever it is. Once we get this done, we'll meet with Doug and kind of have it, since he's in charge of updating our policy book. The big goal is in September when we have our safety fair for the city is that we go through, have the training for the drug policy program, and then have every employee sign the drug policy at that time, which is required by law. That they have to be aware of what the stipulations are in the drug policy. The second thing that we did was the wastewater and water treatment got their OSHA 10 certification, minus 3 classes, which kind of spilled over into having, whether it's OSHA or another organization coming up with very specific, you're required by this job title to have this training and how often it is. One of the things that we're going to try to do, and it's easier with the library, water treatment plant, the wastewater treatment plant, the street department to train together because they're here Monday through Friday. Scott and I are going to kind of be the odd people out because we're on different training schedules than the rest of the city employees. But the ones that are mandatory for all the city employees is to combine all the training at once to economize and do a better job with the financing and paying for those. So everybody will train together, get on the same schedule, instead of one department being here, there, or everywhere. And then if we get a new employee and they need to piggyback on our training, if it's training that we can provide, or when Scott's having it, we'll piggyback on each other, just to kind of save money for all the departments. But the whole goal is to, by job description, have the required training down pat, and then that way every department head knows this is when I have to have this training, and this is the training for this job description. And then the big thing what that will do is when we do budget time, we know how to budget the training aspect of it. Some of this is going to be mandatory OSHA training, and then they'll have their department-specific training. I mean, they don't care about my stop stick training. I don't care about the library's Dewey Decimal System, so, it kind of goes hand in hand.
Well,
but that way,
we care about everything.
so that's kind of where we are with that.
All right, thank you, Julie. We appreciate the attention to safety in all of these areas of our various work sites, so thank you for that report. Appreciate that. Next, Council, you received a project update report from Melanie Carlson. And Melanie, if there's anything specific in that you want to draw our attention to, if not, we'll just take questions from the council if there's any project in particular.
Yeah, that would, if there's any questions. One question I have for you guys, a lot of the projects that are on this list are ones that the department heads have budgeted, and that we just go through the motions and continue to work together. But last year we did kind of a public relations campaign where we got some stuff out in the paper as far as all of the different projects that were going on in the summer. That's not, it hadn't been part of our typical policy, and so I want to know if you would like to continue that this year, and I will work with department heads if you would like to do that.
Council, I would say that's probably a pretty good idea,
Absolutely.
particularly on the construction
we'll get stuff
elements, and something we can get on our website, and possibly some updates throughout the summer too.
Yep.
Yeah, and our Facebook page.
Okay. So if there's any questions.
I'd also like to mention that there's a public meeting being held tonight at the library that's talking about the sponsored projects that are referenced here in this report. There's also going to be a meeting Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock, which is going to be a public forum type meeting that I, Sean Worley, Melanie Carlson, and two others, one from the sustainability group at the university, and then one that has worked with that group as well.
Yep.
And
From, not the DNR, NRCS.
NRCS. And the discussion will be centered around what sponsored projects are, where the funding will come from for those, how that works with our Clean Water SRF money, and how the DNR perceives what we're doing with those and how that benefits us with the ongoing sewer and water improvements here in the city.
Great, thanks, Darren. Again, those are important because they're all stormwater mitigation projects, and it's all getting us to our goal of getting it out of our system. Great, thanks, Melanie. Appreciate that. Okay, next, Council, we're going to move into a project update and discussion on our community recreation project, and that involves the pool and also the recreation center. We have the representatives of the task force with us this evening. We also have representatives from our construction and I believe our design firm here as well. Derek, do we want to, anything that you want to tell the council beforehand, or should we just start by inviting some of our design folks to make a presentation on where we think our project is?
Make a presentation.
Okay.
Where we are at.
So, and Tom, so that I thought maybe we would start there because at our last meeting we did basically send the letters of approval to Burbach to complete their design process with the pool project, and we've been waiting for some of the possibilities with our the recreation side, so if we could hear from design and construction a sense of what's there, so we can get have those two pieces together to have our construction. So maybe our representative from Newman Munson.
I have a board to show the plan. Where would be the best place to set it up?
Yeah, do you have handouts along with it?
What's that?
Are there handouts along with that as well? So if there are handouts, and the council can look at those, and we can tip it a little bit towards our audience and camera so that they can see the board, that'd be great. We're going to get that done, John. Enjoy.
Yeah, the camera will get it that way.
On the wall? There. I already talked to Darren about it.
Hopefully it stays. We got Vanna here. Good evening. I'm Dave Zarodnik with Newman Munson Architects. Along with me is Chris Smith from Carl A. Nelson, and I guess we'll give you just a brief presentation on where things sit with the rec center design right now. After several different iterations and some cost analysis by Chris, we're looking at, let me just orient you really quick here. This is the existing Roosevelt building, and then this is the existing pool building. Right now, there is the pre-engineered building that is the racquetball courts right here, and then a little connecting link. And what we're proposing in this design is to take a look at removing the far north court and create kind of a sense of entry, bringing people in from the east and from the north when we do an additional parking lot area here. This would be a large pre-engineered metal building that hopefully we can get some daylighting components in there. It's all going to be a cost-related issues at this point as we work through things. By removing one of the courts, we can really open up this lobby space here, and we would put a little bit of an addition on here with some glass here, and we'd like to try to open this up so you could see from the outside right into racquetball courts. Again, going to be kind of a cost issue. It's a very fine balancing act that Chris is keeping our toes to the fire with every little move we're making here. We will have to add some additional restrooms in this location, and right now what we're looking at is essentially turning the women's restroom into a men's restroom and adding a little bit of square footage here so we can get a required restroom count for the whole facilities kind of in this area here. Hopefully putting on a family restroom that would include showers so that if you had a disabled person you needed to assist with, we could have those available amenities here. And then a women's restroom that kind of takes on part of what is the entry here and then part of this little bit of an addition here. One of the reasons we're really looking to kind of focus this here is to minimize the amount of plumbing costs that we have here. And we've already got plumbing to this location. We know we can take care of the waste that is generated here. So rather than running additional large waste lines to another part of the building, I think right off of the lobby is going to be a great spot for this. We are also looking at removing just a little bit of the CMU walls that create part of this area and the back door exit right now, so that this lobby can be accessed off of the locker rooms and have a nice, generous, this is a little over 12 feet right now across here, so that when you're not narrowed down to just this is a 5.5-foot hallway here. We're very concerned about that if it stayed very small. So we're proposing that this opens up a little bit. Derek had talked about the idea of maybe making this the concession stand. So things we really have to work through in the plan, and hopefully we have the budget to support these things. But like I said, we'd like to see these courts remain with glass fronts. This one already has a glass front. It'd be nice to see the glass front in here. We would have a glass front along this lobby here where there could be gaming, kind of a hangout area. And then this large area, pre-engineered building, we're looking at sinking the floor down about 3.5 feet so that it helps balance the cost of having to bring more fill into that area. Again, doing moves to try to mitigate the amount of money we have to spend here. We do have still shown a 200-meter track, and that's at the outside lane. And then we have areas for, cardiovascular equipment, weights, courts. And right now we're just kind of suggesting that maybe there's 2 wood courts and maybe a sport court. Those are all things that need to be discussed with the Recreation Committee and just get this all fine-tuned a little bit more. But from the lobby, you do have an elevated view looking over the large court area. We would see very transparent screens, kind of a mesh screen, so you could see all the courts and try to give as much visual control of this facility from the front desk as possible. But we do have a ramp coming down from this elevated area along here, and then stairs from this point and stairs from this point as well. So hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of a brief overview, and I guess I'd open it up to any kind of questions. Chris, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I have a question. How does this work? I mean, with our outdoor swimming pool, we were thinking everybody's going to come in the same place, or not yet anymore?
That's a logistical question, I guess. Site-wise, we had talked about that the last meeting about a week ago. Derek, do you know where you're bringing people in for the outdoor pool? Were you thinking they were going to come in the front door, check in, and then be able to exit out this way, or you could exit through the locker rooms and out the pool door here? Those are some options that I think had been thrown around, and I don't know if anything's been landed on, but you certainly could come in and check in at the desk here and be able to use the locker facilities and get out the door right here. There's a patio. There have been discussions about maybe even as a next phase doing another set of restrooms here so people weren't having to come in, or doing even a concession stand out here, but obviously those would be down the road.
Okay. Good.
Question?
Yes.
The glass fronts on the racquetball courts, none of the racquetball players or none of the volleyball players want more glass. Would like less glass. It's hard to acquire the ball off the back wall when it's glass because you've got other objects farther around in movement. And I don't know any racquetball court players that like that too. So any glass work would be not money well spent.
Okay. I mean, currently, right now, there is a glass front to this
Right,
center
middle court, and nobody likes playing there.
Okay. So maybe we don't need to put the glass front on here. We're thinking of it from a visual and how exciting it would be to be able to be outside and look in there. I know there are frets you could put on the inside of the glass so you can't see, and it takes care of some of that.
Oh, that's an option. On your drawing here, it looks like the wall, it's like a 6-foot aisle there now along the courts. Yeah.
Yes.
That aisle goes away and that all opens up? Is that?
Well, in this center bay right here, there is some X bracing, and so we're showing some benches there. There will be a couple of X bracings. We'd like to try to open it up so that we can see the activity. And right now, that's a very tight hallway right in through there. Right. So it'd be nice to be able to have some spectators be able to sit back here. I just think it'd be very promotion of the activity that's happening within the courts.
So are those lockers there, or what is this?
We're early in the concept. It could be lockers. The Y up in Cedar Rapids, where we took the facility tours to, we did put lockers just outside the racquetball courts, so you could lock up your bag and all kind of stuff and not have to worry about it sitting out there for people to grab.
Well, right now, with the 6-foot aisle, Derek and I have talked about ways to make that aisle more accessible, but at least you can keep your eye on your stuff as you're playing. And if a stranger walks through, we almost always know it. If that's wide open, then there needs to be some place to put valuables, cell phones, wallets, stuff like that.
Sure.
So, and it's not the neatest place when people bring in all those bags and change clothes, and so all that's going to be out in that what looks like an east segment of that lobby.
Yes.
Yeah.
Out right on
that's
here.
all going to be out in there. So that's going to be highly visible too. So think about that. I'm not sure that's the image you want to project with that entrance there.
Is there a reason, John, that the existing lockers would not work?
And outside of the restrooms or something?
Person by a store.
We'll figure it out.
Oh, in the locker room? It's I don't know. I don't know anybody that uses them. It's a possibility. It's just kind of inconvenient.
Yeah. I play racquetball too, so I always leave my bag sitting right outside there.
Sort of a tradition. Are you going to have costs associated with removal of the racquetball court? There's a
There's certainly going to be costs associated with that, but it's a key goal of the project to have a nice lobby and circulation space.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, there's costs associated with removing that court, but it's also offset by the additional costs that we wouldn't have by making the building larger with the lobby area.
I'm sorry, making what larger?
The lobby. If we didn't eliminate the court, then we'd have to make the building addition larger to incorporate that square footage. So it's a cost trade-off that we believe would be less expensive than making the building larger. So this whole plan in general, though, is a concept at this point. There's not been a cost estimate done on this plan. I think what we're looking for tonight is some input on this concept so we can take the next step and do a cost estimate. At that point, we'll be able to identify a big picture, what we can afford, what we can't, and some of the details that go into these things.
Yeah, it's a nice looking layout. The other question, which I don't see on your layout here, is where does that third court go? At the previous meeting, I think it was February 10th, the council pretty much mandated the courts will exist someplace. If one of them's removed, it gets put someplace else. That's the way I read it.
I can't speak to
I don't believe that was what we decided. We decided to add 2 courts. If we took those out, the last drawing had 2 courts on the south side of the building. I recall we were going to say we were keeping 3 courts, the north side.
Okay, well, I wasn't there at the meeting.
2 was the intention, not 3. The third is used by gymnastics currently, and they're moving, so 2 is sufficient as far as what we
Eric, I think
discussed.
you're
I
at
would
the meeting.
agree that
there's an option of either 2 or 3. Either one would be within the scope of the motion that was made.
I would agree with that. Either it was either that everything was going to be left as is, or 2 were going to be replaced on the north side of the building. So it was kind of an either or. The discussion of the economics of accomplishing all of this has led to to the removal of 1 court here, but there wasn't that level of detailed discussion when we decided that. I think the intention of the council was to preserve the courts as best we could. And again, what they were looking at that night was probably a 2 and a 3 court option. Does council feel that was the intention of that?
Yes.
Motion? Darren?
That's how I feel, yeah.
Because that's what we were looking at that night. We were looking at 2 possibilities: not doing anything, or if they were removed and a large lobby was built, that 2 would be replaced. So that's what I think what the council was voting to support.
Is the court going to be dismantled without destroying it?
Well, I don't know. That's probably a level of detail that we can, that we'll know a little bit better once we get into construction. I mean, so in other words, that option of maybe moving it somewhere else to MUM, I think that we'd be amenable to that if it can be deconstructed in a way that it still has integrity to be rebuilt. So, okay. Tom, representing task force, any comments on this design?
No, I mean, obviously we're trying to get all of our wants and wishes in there and still remain at an $8.5 million project cost. We're not sure we're there yet. We're certainly working towards it. I think there's a lot of work that has to be done to get Chris to a spot where he can actually give us an estimate. I mean, obviously he's been working with us all along. I think there's some tough decisions we're going to have to make. We certainly have had a green outlook on this project, but the number of windows, I'm sure, is drastically reduced to maybe to 0. So, I mean, those, we got to get through those details.
Okay. So, and the plan for that is to just facilities committee to continue to meet with Chris and.
Yeah.
Okay. And our timeline for that.
Well, so as our timeline is immediate, so certainly we're getting ready to go to Des Moines and get down on our knees yet again beg for some more money. I'm still begging, by the way, and those that don't see all the dirt on my knees, it's there. So I think we'll be presenting this, Ed. I don't know that we'll have a new iteration. When we go to the CAT grant, we're going to use current estimates that we have. Yeah, but there are just estimates. But we do have to meet with CAT committee on the 14th. So we're 2 weeks out, and unfortunately, we found out today we have to get any information we want to talk about at the meeting. We got to give them on Wednesday. So this Wednesday, we have 2 days to be prepared. So. We didn't know that. We thought we had a week.
So you good going with this?
We're going in with that. Don't take it.
Yeah, yeah. I think they probably have enough flexibility so that they're going to get a drawing. We're going to come back and say, since then we've learned this, and I think we'll be okay. But yeah, I agree. We should post what we have now.
And then I would, Ed, if I could just update the city council. Obviously,
Before you do that, Tom, let me just ask if there are any other questions for our representatives from Newman or Carly Nelson, council? Yeah.
Actually, I have 2 questions. By putting the elevation undergrade like that, I presume that we're not anticipating any water problems or drainage problems if it's constructed properly.
Right. Yeah. And maybe Melanie can answer that a little bit better.
It's actually not going to be undergrade. It's that we're not going to have to bring the grade up as much. We won't be cutting any at the very west end the far end, we're going to be filling about 3 feet there. So we're not actually going below the existing ground.
Good. And another question I have is things like windows. If you don't have them to start, is it something later on, if we raise more money, that could be added in this kind of in the building?
One of our intents would be to try to look at daylighting options even in the thing and bid it as an alternate, so you know what those costs are, and maybe there's a way to construct it that we can pull some panels off and get windows back in later or something like that. So we do want to keep that in mind as we're doing the design work. Good. And I would like to take it all the way to bidding so that you know what the costs of them are.
And just a comment, I think you've done a good job of incorporating all the kind of desires for the nice lobby as well as the racquetball and perhaps keeping the cost down. So I think it sounds like a good plan.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, Tom, give us your report.
Yeah, I'll be pretty brief. So we did meet with the Board of Supervisors this morning, unanimous vote to support the project. As you all know, that's really critical to continue on with our CAT progress, which we'll be doing in May. So I think the group's moving now that we have some drawings, some ideas. We could continue with fundraising. We are at $4,376,000. So you add the $3 million, that gets us to $7 million. So if we could get $1.2 million from the CAT, oh wait, we won't even be able to ask for that.
We could.
Yeah, we won't be allowed to ask, but
So the point is that
we're on our
way. With that amount that Tom just quoted, there has been additional funds raised since the last report, and most importantly, we can report that to the CAT board along with a contribution from the county, along with agreements with the school board. And a new design. So there's a lot positive that we'll be bringing to Des Moines in May.
And they're expecting us to do that.
Right.
We skipped one meeting, so it's all good.
Right.
And I think the timeline with CAT grant as it relates to letting out the bids and getting bids in on the pool, all that timing appears to me that it's going to work out very favorable for us.
Good.
It's all in line.
Good. Okay. Any questions? Derek, anything else to report? Yes.
So a couple meetings ago, we talked about the pool and what phase we were at with bid letting and everything. Are we still looking at next year for the pool to be open? I'm getting asked that a lot. I'm curious. I'm hearing different stories.
I don't know enough information to answer that today. I will say that Burbach gave us a new timetable for beginning construction in August, at the end of August, so call it September 1st, and that they're going to get this thing built by June 1st, so in the 9 months of winter, they're going to get it done. We've got a question out to them just to understand that. Every timeline they've given us up till now has been somewhere between 15 months, if we did it predominantly in the summer, and 18 months. I'm a little concerned they got a digit wrong on their timetable.
Well, the last time he stood before us, we basically gave him both scenarios, and he felt that even with the redesign and waiting another 60 days for everything, that it could still be open. So that's how we're proceeding. That's how I would answer it to people who are asking. We're moving as quickly as possible to have a pool open by next year. And should the construction season and the weather and everything cooperate, we will.
So anyway, the question's out to them.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Tom.
Great.
Yes.
Comment?
Yes.
I forgot to say, I'm sorry, I apologize for that. We are very happy to preserve to the racquetball courts in their existing position. We think that's a plus for the center, and it's certainly a plus for us, so we know disruption. So.
Great.
And it's been a rocky process, but I know it's a hell of a daunting project, the size and scope of fundraising. So I applaud the people that have been doing all that.
Great. Thanks, John. We appreciate that. And you saved us some money tonight, too, because we don't have to put glass on your one court there, so we'll factor that in. We appreciate that. Dan, yes.
You know I'm going to say this, Dan, for you. Regardless of the CAT grant, and you've had all this really good work. I want to compliment the people who've done most of this. You've got Jane and Tom and Newman Munson and Chris Smith to get down to maintaining all that programming and moving the pool and just all the savings built into that. It was a remarkable turnaround that got us back in the game. But regardless of the CAT, as you already know, we need another push for fundraising. So the community has to understand that things have really turned to the positive. The county this morning came through, and the people designing this have come through. We're going to need another burst of generosity, if you will.
Great, thanks, Dan.
Regardless of the CAT grant. And I would add one other thing. Most people don't understand or even recognize that there's some considerable programming space in there that's going to be very useful and the community's really going to enjoy at the ends of those ovals. Until somebody actually sees that, they don't know how useful that is and how Derek will have lots of options in terms of where people can participate in programming of all sorts. So that was all maintained and the good work done here. But of course, leading up,
great.
We'll still need the generosity of the public and to understand that will be the final leg, will be the last push on the fundraising, regardless of how the CAT grant goes.
Very good point. A very good point. You know, I think that we're at a point right now where there's a lot more certainty and confidence in what we are doing going forward, and I think that'll translate into a renewed confidence overall in the project and renewed commitments to making sure we get it fully funded. You know, those final dollars are going to be the most important, obviously, but we'll be asking for those, Tom, when we have even more certainty than we have right now. So I think good point. We still need the community's participation as well. Any other questions, council? Not entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'm sorry? Oh, Dave? Yes, I'm sorry.
When you asked about moving racquetball courts, when those were acquired 32 years ago, they were used courts from Columbus, Ohio, and they were brought out on a semi, and they were constructed at that location. So I checked your plans and things, but you may be able to remove that north court and preserve its integrity.
Great, thanks, Dave.
Second.
Well, who motioned to we adjourn? Who's in a hurry? Motion by Hammond, second by Revelinsky. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.